Welcome into Up in the Rafters, a podcast brought to you by Inside Carolina this college basketball season. I'm Taylor Vippolis hosting this, and as always, joining me, he's a national champion, the Final Four's most outstanding player, and a Carolina basketball legend, Joel Berry. Joel, this past week, if I had to give it a name, it was a take care of business week, because that's exactly what North Carolina did. It was light work against Miami, light work against Virginia Tech. The 32-point win against the Hokies on Tuesday was Carolina's largest margin of victory in league play this season. Thoughts from those two games, biggest takeaways?
Man, you put it simply, man. It was they took care of business. That Virginia Tech game, when you start talking about metrics, like you want to be able to blow that team out, which they did, because that helps you more than if it was a close game. So the way that they handle the wins is what is most impressive, more than just the wins itself, because, I mean, that's the bottom of the league. But you want to be playing your best basketball, and you want to prepare and put yourself in a position to make a run here at the end of the season when they're still outside looking in, you know. So big time game coming up. So those two games leading into it that's how you want to see Carolina play. So I'm very, very impressed in the fashion of how they did it.
Yeah, and Carolina extends their season-long win streak to 6 games. It's the Tar Heels' 5th straight win by double digits. When you're looking at that, obviously the teams that they're playing aren't, the Dukes, the powerhouses in college basketball. But the fact that this team, after they did have some struggles closing out games or games that were a lot closer, have kind of put those issues aside in this dip in opponent. But what do you think that just says about this team, that not only are they beating teams, but they're putting teams away pretty decisively?
Yeah, I heard Coach Davis on his Zoom call on Mondays. And they asked him the question, like, what do you think is the difference with this team? And he alluded to the fact that, like, everyone learns at a different pace. And I think for this team, it made me, I just pondered on that question of, like, why? Because you see the talent, you see the spurts of them being good teams, but it was just like the little small details is what affected them. The turnovers, sometimes the ball being stagnant and then them pulling it out and just not getting a quality shot. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that, like, when you look at the quality of teams they play in the beginning of the season, like, that messes with you confidence wise. And I think it took just a little time for them to recover from that. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, they don't have time to do that, but it really is a thing where your confidence can get shot. And that's why you see a lot of teams, they kind of like mix in some really good games and then they play some really bad games, because confidence is a thing. Like, it doesn't matter the quality of the team. If a shot goes in the basket, that's a shot going into the basket regardless. So I think that's what it is for this team at this point. Everyone's starting to find their groove at the right time, and they just seem to gel. They just seem to gel well at this point of the season. And now everyone looks comfortable. I mean, look at RJ. Some of those shots that he was making last year, you saw those here in these games where it was mano-a-mano. I'm just better than you. Sidestep. Let me knock this 3 down. Like, we haven't really seen that comfortability all season long. And I saw it this week. And then you saw what Ian Jackson did. That's just 2 examples, but it just seems like this team, to Coach Davis's point, has finally found their footing in working together.
On the topic of RJ Davis, we're going to look at the Virginia Tech game a bit, but more so just talk about it in terms of the grand scheme of things before we look at the Duke game. But the fact that Carolina was able to win a game by 32 points, you would assume that RJ Davis, was lighting up the stat sheet, that he had, 20 plus field goals, that he was going crazy. You look at it, he has just 6 field goal attempts. and you look at where their points were coming from, they have a great distribution of where their points come from to where they can win a game where RJ Davis, the preseason ACC player of the year, only has 6 field goal attempts. What do you think that says about this Tar Heel team?
Taylor, I said it at the beginning of the season, like the people had to change their expectations for this year. Everyone was looking at RJ last year but you have to look at the talent that was around him that allowed him to operate. You know, he had the 4 spot where he could have more room with Harrison Ingram there being able to operate. I just think a lot of the times this year he was just playing in crowds. And so what does that mean? That means you use your teammates. That's the game of basketball. Yes, I know a lot of people are like, well, we want to see him do what he did last year and build on that. Yeah, but at the same time, you got to respect the game of basketball. You have to give or you have to take what it gives. And so I think with seeing that low volume of shots, to me, that's telling me that he's reading the game and that he's utilizing his teammates. And you know what we're seeing? We're seeing his teammates feed off of that. And this is why they had, 4 consecutive games with 6 guys scoring in double figures?
Yeah.
It's a reason why you cannot go against the game. You got to respect the game of basketball, and you have to take advantage of what is being given. And I just feel like that's what it is.
And some of those extra passes led to a lot of wide open looks for North Carolina, more than they were accustomed to seeing this season. You look at them shooting the 3 in that game, 15 of 28 for a team that really hasn't been known as a great 3-point shooting team. But if I tell you that North Carolina is going to shoot almost 33 3-point attempts and make over half of them, their chances of winning they start to go up. What did you see? What did you see from some of the 3-point attempts that maybe Carolina can try to bring over to the Duke game or to the ACC tournament and try to carry over this hot shooting?
They were all in rhythm. At least a majority of them were in rhythm. There was some that Ian Jackson just took that because he was hot, and rightfully so. If you hit 2 or 3 in a row and that third one goes up, yeah, I mean, you have the right to do it. Now he is a freshman, but you got the right to do it. And at least it wasn't like, all right, I'm gonna shoot it from the logo just to see if I got it. Like it was still in the midst of the offense, him coming off of those screens. That's it. All of the threes that they took were in rhythm. The ones that RJ took were the ones that we were used to seeing last year. And now he has that feeling in his hands where he's comfortable enough to be able to knock those threes down. Look, like the game of basketball comes down to those very small details, like even just taking one extra dribble can throw off the rhythm. And that is why I'm saying just getting off the ball at the right time just makes a huge difference. And that's what I saw in that Virginia Tech game was as soon as the defense committed or a guy was open, it was like the ball was being delivered, and it was being delivered right when guys could just step right into the shot, not have to force anything. Those are the type of quality threes you want, and you see the results. You start knocking them down. So that's what I saw, and they need to continue that.
Last thing from that Virginia Tech game, when you're looking at the box score, Ian Jackson leads the way with 19. Seth Trimble, the second leading scorer, with 17. One of the plays that I starred from that game was in the first half. Seth Trimble gets a monster block under the basket, and then it turns into Carolina trying to run in transition. They find Seth. He makes the layup for the N1. When you see Seth, and to a certain extent, Jalen Withers also has these type of high energy plays. What do those type of plays do for a team where you can feed off that energy and it's tangible, the result that you get from those plays and what it does for a team?
It's a tone setter, especially on the road. It's one of those plays where you don't have many fans in the crowd. It's you and your teammates. and you have to have those plays to be able to ignite some fire in the team. And that's what Seth Trimble can do. That's what Jalen Withers can do. Anybody can do it. But that was one of those plays that when you look back at it, to your point, that's what took them into halftime. And I think they went on like I could be wrong, but maybe 21, somewhere between 15 and 21 run, the 2 run. That was like, that's what you want to see. You want to be able to have those plays. And man, that block looked like an adult versus a kid. I mean, it closed so fast. I thought at least the ball was going to get up on the backboard, and Seth closed his space. Like, he closed his space so fast, and next thing you know, dude is laying on his back. But it was disrespectful. But no, those are the type of plays you need, and Seth Trimble is able to do that. And what a luxury to just be able to have it off the bench.
Yeah.
Be able to plug him in and say, hey, go out there and do something spectacular. Use that defensive prowess that you have and just change the game, and bam, you're going into halftime up by 15 points.
Quick break so I could remind everybody about our friends over at Johnny T-Shirt. If you're going to be in Chapel Hill, you could visit Johnny T-Shirt on Franklin Street. And if not, no worries. You could go online to johnnytshirt.com. They have everything that the Carolina fan could possibly want: the hats, the T-shirts, the jerseys, you name it. They've got it. It's great people, great customer service. It's alumni owned and operated. And don't forget, Inside Carolina, premium subscribers save 10% off their orders. All right, Joel, let's turn the attention to Duke. It's a massive game for North Carolina,
yes, sir.
Who projects right now either one of the last 4 teams in, last 4 teams out, depending on who you talk to and what's kind of important to the models that I guess you're looking at. I'm more of an eye test guy.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's just like, that's why you got to take care of business. Who knows what's going on?
I took questions from people on Instagram, and the first one for this Duke game, it's from Chris_Vic 1207. And this was the most popular question by far. If Carolina beats Duke, assuming they don't, blow up in the ACC tournament, that first game, whenever they play somewhere in that 4 to 6 range, seeding wise, if Carolina beats Duke, is that enough to get into the tournament?
I think it is. And the reason why I say that is just going by what has happened in the metrics, or in the net, if you will, since the net started. I think it's 7 years now. There has been no team that made it in with less than 2 quad 1 wins. So if Carolina can get this win, that'll be 2. And hopefully the committee says, all right, that's enough to justify the fact that, all right, we know you had a hard schedule, but at the end of the day, you still only have 1 quad 1 win. But now that you have 2, which there's no huge difference between 1 and 2. So I really don't get it, but I guess it's more of the quality of team, knowing that you can compete against those teams, which we can see. So I think if they're able to get this win, going by the history of the metrics, Carolina should be able to get in. And then it sets them up well to be able to have a double bye in the tournament, and be able to not have to compete, for 3 days. Now you have 2 days. So I think that'll bode well for them.
I'll take it one step further. If this North Carolina team beats Duke tomorrow, Saturday, and they're on a 7-game win streak, and all the metrics say that they're playing like a top 25 team in the country, zero chance they miss the tournament.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's 0 chance. Yeah. They're in the tournament. Look, we can't deny it. The tournament without Carolina is not a good tournament. I'm sorry. It's any of the Blue Bloods. It's not just for Carolina. A March Madness without your Blue Bloods is not a March Madness that you want to watch. So that by itself they want to see him there. Carolina just has to do what they need to do.
Yeah, exactly. And according to Bart Torvik, Carolina currently has a 59.1% chance to make the 64-team field. So obviously that's before Carolina plays Duke, and they're moving up in the net rankings. They're 38th right now in the net rankings. Virginia last season was 54th. They were the lowest of any at-large in last year's field. Rutgers at 77 in 2022 is the record holder for the net ranking getting into the tournament. I'm seeing this. Indiana State, if I'm Indiana State, I'm mad still about last year because they were 28th in the net, and they were the highest rated team to not make the field. So if Indiana State's jersey said North Carolina last year, they're in the tournament.
They would have been in the tournament, 100%. I mean, you got to take a look at the conference that they play in. So, yeah. But yeah, you're right.
The last time these two teams played, Cooper Flagg had he was 6 of 14 from the field, but 3 of 5 from three. He had 21 points. He's had 20 consecutive games in double figure scoring. Most likely going to be the ACC Player of the Year, the ACC Rookie of the Year. A lot of trophies coming his way. You can make a case for him being the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. T-Lin 11 asks, what is the key to containing Cooper Flagg this time around?
Yeah, I think it's just switching up what he's seeing. Whether that be player-wise or that be scheme-wise. Like, you got to be able to do something that's going to throw him off. The physicality part, I get it, but playing physical to an extent. You don't want to get in foul trouble. That's the quickest way to beat yourself. And then you start having to dig into your bench and messing up the lineups that have been working for Carolina with Jalen Withers at the 4, Drake Powell at the 3. Like, you just don't want to go down that route. So if you can be physical and still yet, play good, solid defense, yes, by all means, that's what you need to do, because I think that's the recipe for Flagg, is to be able to bump him off of his spots and not allow him to get to his spots as easy, because that's when he becomes dangerous. I would say, start him off with Withers, give him some size, and then switch it up with Drake Powell and kind of just throw different guys at him. Throw those two different guys at different times. And then maybe if he's coming off a screen and roll, blitz it, trap him, get the ball out of his hand, make Common Malawach be a playmaker at the free throw line. Like, I just think you have to change up the schemes, because he is very talented and multifaceted in how he can score and impact the game. I just think it's with a player like that, you just got to change up the schemes. And I will give an example like Jokic with the Lakers. Like, they started just trapping him whenever he got the ball. Like, make somebody else make somebody else score the ball, make somebody else have to do something. Don't let Cooper Flagg just be the initiator every single time or majority of the time. You gotta change up things.
How does that affect the team from a scouting perspective, where if the strategy is let's mix up guys that we have on him, in comparison to some of the teams you played on, where it was like, hey, we have Theo, we have Kenny Williams. Those guys go into the game knowing we're going to be on the best perimeter player the entire game. It's our job to kind of contain them, in comparison to the approach by like committee.
Yeah, I honestly think that with just like, if you have someone that is known on your team as, that has the intangibles to guard that player at that position, between size, between athleticism, and the awareness, they're obviously the best. What you want to do is to guard that person, or keep them on them all the time. That's always goal number one. But if you need to do it by committee, then you just have to, your team has to be aware of that. And then everyone has to adjust from there. Like, there are games where you can go into it with one person. There are games where the scouting report changes, and now that's what your team has to do. You have to adjust. And we had to do that sometimes when we have to even had to do it in the midst of a game. All right, we got to change it. We got to change the scheme up, or we got to go double team. We got to get the ball out of his hand. So it's all about them having the preparation to know, all right, going into the game, this is what we're doing. And everybody has to be on their P's and Q's. And if that means trapping, everyone has to know, all right, when he gets the ball in this certain spot, we're trapping. I have to be able to know where the next pass is going. So it's all about the team just being aware, and that's high level basketball. You have to be able to adjust going into the game and then adjust on the fly in the game.
The past couple of weeks, one of the points where you could see Carolina's season turning is when they went to this bigger lineup where they could shift Drake Powell to a more natural the 3 spot for him. Jalen Withers comes in at the 4. Van Allen Lubin has done tremendous the past couple of weeks at that center spot. But it's one thing to say Carolina's playing a bigger lineup. It's another thing to say that Duke is playing a bigger lineup, because when you look at that Duke lineup, it might as well be the Monstars out there with length all over the court. So that leads perfect to the next question. JPAC21 asked, is Duke's size still going to be a major issue despite Carolina moving to a taller lineup, or is it manageable now?
It's obviously more manageable. Being able to have more size and length out there, that just gives you opportunity to, sometimes rebounding comes down to height, and inches matter. I will say from personal experience, we played against some really big dudes when we had Theo Pinson and Luke May at the 4 or 5 going up against Marvin Bagley and Wendell Carter Jr. So it's doable. It's just, to my point earlier, going into the game, the mindset has to be, okay, we know we're smaller. So now the rebounding goes from not just with the bigs, it goes, all guys got to be committed to getting to the rebound and scrapping and fighting no matter what. Look, you can't go to the offensive end anyways without the ball. So everybody has to, because Malawach trying to box him out by yourself with just Van Allen, it's not gonna work. Van Allen, like our thought process was, Theo, when the ball goes up, don't even look at it. Don't pay attention to it. We want you to pay attention to getting Marvin out of there. Get him out of there. We will go down and we will get the rebound. Luke May, don't worry. Box out Wendell. Guards, we're coming in to get the rebound. That's what it has to be. Jalen, Vin, y'all, if it's elbow to the chest, if it's turning around, boxing out face to face, that's what we need y'all to do. Don't worry about it. That's the mentality that they have to have. And then as far as on-ball defense, you just have to be scrappy. That's where it is. It's being scrappy. What goes against size is speed. Speed kills. So they have to be able to scrap and be physical, and then also use the speed to their advantage, and then tell those bigs, box out.
When you're talking about the rebounding and the toughness, the old school player in me, that pickup, gritty, tone setter guy, there's nothing I loved more than when I was boxing out and that ball bounced. Where that meant I had that guy back by like half court.
Bro, yes. But that's the mentality though. That's the mentality they have to have. They have to have that where if the ball bounces on the floor, your job is done. Somebody has to come get this bad boy. Hey, yeah, somebody else has to come get it because I did my job.
That's such an old school thing. I don't even know if kids like know about that nowadays. Like,
no,
they're not teaching box outs anymore in young basketball. I don't think.
No, they're not. They're teaching. They're just teaching like try to jump as high as possible to go get the ball. Yeah,
and shooting like Steph Curry.
yeah. No box out. That's not sexy enough.
The final question today comes from C. Johnson 1108. We're going to end with a positive question. So he asked, if Carolina wins this game, who would be the X factor to upsetting Duke?
I think the X factor is Jalen Withers. I think Coach Davis's system, I keep saying this, is that like having that four guy at the four spot, being able to, not saying that he has to be a great shooter, but even either shooting the ball or playmaking, like just being respectable from the 3-point line so that it gives the offense some room. And I think that's also why we're seeing Carolina's offense look a lot better. It's just because there's more room to operate. And when you have more room to operate, those lanes start opening, and now you can drive into them, and it just creates other opportunities as well. So I think Jalen Withers being able to be at the four spot, and being able to knock down some threes from the outside, but also be that playmaker, I think will just be the huge difference. But to be honest, I think the X factor is the whole team. I think this is a team effort. That's what it will take to beat the team, beat Duke, because you're lacking in size. And part of that, you have to go into this game and everyone has to be on board and everyone should, not saying they got to walk out looking like this, but everybody should be sort of kind of looking like Tyler Hansbrough after the Gerald Henderson elbow. Like I need to see some blood. I need to see some scrapes on arms. I might need to see a bloody nose, maybe one or two of them. Like it has to be that type of effort. I truly think that's what it needs to be.
What is it like playing in these games where you kind of can't get lost in like how big a moment it is, but if you do have a big moment, it's a moment that gets played on the video board forever, where you have Caleb Love shot against Duke. You have the game where Cormac Ryan went crazy in Cameron Indoor, where these are the games where those legacies are kind of made at Carolina. Like, you don't go to Carolina to play Boston College. You don't go to Carolina to play Florida State. You go to Carolina to play on primetime on ESPN against Duke.
This is when you're going to Carolina, when you're going to Duke, these are the games that you live for. Like, you get to play on the biggest stage in the Final Four. You get to play in some of the biggest games in non-conference, MSG, Maui, whatever. But this game is on a whole different level. You're talking about the most intense rivalry in not just college sports, but sports in general. And this is one of those games where they're running films all day long from Carolina Duke games back from the 90s. This is what you live for. This is what you come to college basketball for. And when you come to these two schools, these are the games that you are circling at the beginning of the year, because you know that no matter what, you throw everything out of the door, and whatever needs to be done to get the win, it needs to be done. As the fans say, we don't care how the season goes, as long as we beat Duke or we beat Carolina. That's all they care for, because they want to walk into the office the next day and brag the crap out of the win. This is very intense. You step up in these moments, and this is where big-time players are made. And that's why everyone loves going into this rivalry game with all the hype, because it truly is where legends are made. That sounds like a promo, but it is where legends are made. You will constantly be shown on whatever it is, because it is the greatest rivalry game.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can remind everybody about our friends over at Congruity. Congruity is the leading provider for Tar Heel business owners, payroll, HR, and employee benefit needs. Inside Carolina listeners can get a free payroll and HR assessment by emailing Matt at Congruity. Email is matt@congruityhr.com. That email again is matt@congruityhr.com. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, and I think you had a great point where when looking for an X factor, this feels like it is it takes everyone game. When you look at how Carolina has had success over their 6-game winning streak, it's not, RJ Davis playing hero ball, RJ Davis going for 30 plus points every night. It's what we talked about earlier. 5-6 players in double figure scoring. And that's going to be something that has to carry over if Carolina does upset Duke.
It's truly almost a replica of 2018. It really is. It really is.
Yeah. And at the time of recording, Carolina is an 11.5-point underdog on DraftKings. But Joel, you know what the good thing is?
What's that?
There's a reason why they play the games.
You gotta play it. You gotta play it. That's what matters.
Carolina is an 11.5-point underdog, but Duke does not start this game winning. They're going to start this game the way they start every game, 0-0.
0-0.
But Carolina, Duke, Saturday, 6:30 p.m. tip-off, ESPN. I almost didn't even tell people what time and where this game was because this is a game you don't need somebody reminding you.
You don't need all the details. Everyone knows where it's at. Everyone knows what time it's on. They already got the parties. My family's already, I'll be working the game, but my family's already talking about they're eating at this time. Everyone knows.
I'm imagining somebody who's this plugged into Inside Carolina, that they're this plugged in, listening to the podcast and being like, oh, wait, Duke Carolina plays because we just said that.
Yeah. They already know. They got the bourbon.
That person doesn't exist.
Yeah. No, that person does not exist. And if they do, they must be living under a rock.
We will be back next week to break it all down. Joel, man, appreciate the time as always and appreciate everybody watching and listening.
Yes, sir. Go Hills.